This podcast is sponsored by Systems Accountants, a specialist global resourcing solutions company focused exclusively on accounting technology and finance transformation.
Rugby legends always have some of the most amazing stories to tell, not just about their playing days, but their life experiences once retiring as a professional player. Former England flank and now the director of full contact events in the United Kingdom, Peter Winterbottom is one such person. Peter, it's an incredible honour to speak with you here at the Rugby Business Network. Thank you for providing us with the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely pleasure to speak to you too.
Well, Peter, over 2 decades have passed now since you played your last game for England in 1993. And with 58 caps, you held the record for 10 years as England's most capped open side flank. And incredibly, you started in every single one of those test matches. What were some of the standout memories from your international career?
I think firstly, my first cap, which came in 1982 when I was 21, and against Australia. Mm-hmm. That was a incredible experience, and then there were, I think, a number of highlights of the Lions tours. Were a highlight certainly to be on. We weren't successful. Had 2 tours to New Zealand, and we didn't win either of those series. And I think possibly the other 2 were getting to the World Cup final in 1991, but unfortunately coming just up short against Australia, and then winning a couple of Grand Slams, 91, 92 after that. So there was a number of highlights, and it's sometimes difficult to sort of quantify them, but some great experiences and great fun, and I guess along the way I've been to a lot of great sort of rugby countries and met a lot of great rugby people along the way, and made some lifelong friends.
Well, it definitely has been a career full of highlight moments, and you touched on the 2, the Rugby World Cups you went to, as well as the British and Irish Lions tour to New Zealand, which was in 1983 and 1993. Speaking specifically about that tour, what was that experience like for you?
Well, it was in those days it was a sort of highlight of your rugby career, because the World Cup started in 1987, so certainly the 1983 tour was to be a Lion was the sort of ultimate. And I thrived on them. I loved it. To go on a Lions tour is very tough physically and mentally, but it's a great experience, and I think you've got to really sort of embrace it and try and enjoy it as much as possible. There's a lot of pressure on people to perform, and of course my 2 tours to New Zealand, which is the hardest, without doubt, the hardest place to go and tour and be successful. But and as I said earlier on, I met some fantastic people and made lifelong friends through the Lions tours.
It may just be coincidence or perhaps a cunning plan on my part to speak to you now at this moment while the British and Irish Lions are currently in New Zealand. What are your expectations for the upcoming 3 tests against the All Blacks?
I think they're going to be extremely difficult. Against the Crusaders last Saturday, I think the Lions showed that they're going to be competitive. We need the guys to stay injury free. We need to get the right combinations on the pitch, and hopefully some of the guys will come out with some standout performances. I do believe that the Lions have got some quality players and players that can give the All Blacks a run for their money. But we are coming off a long European season. They haven't had a lot of time to sort of gel and get to know each other and get to know the way each other plays. The odds are sort of stacked up against the Lions, but I hope that we're competitive. Whether we win the series or lose the series, it's a question really of giving ourselves a chance to win the games, and I think we'll do that.
Great. Well, Peter, you have mentioned that you've come into contact with past and current professional rugby players on a regular basis. So I'm sure you've managed to swap stories and spoken about your careers amongst each other. What differences have you picked up on when you compare rugby from the 80s and 90s when you played to where the game is presently?
Well, I think really it's a completely different game. I mean, I retired just before the advent of professional rugby. So all my rugby was in the amateur era. I was lucky enough then, at the end of my career, to come down to London, and I got a job working as a corporate bond broker in the city. So I had 5 years at Harlequins doing that job, and then I sort of carried that on when I retired from rugby. But of course, it's slightly different for guys now. They can have a stellar rugby career, and then find it very difficult to find something meaningful to do afterwards. And it's there's an enormous amount of pressure on players at the moment to perform. The seasons are very long. It's very taxing for players, and it's probably more mental than physical, I think. I was talking to Tom Youngs, the former Lions and England hooker, recently about the sort of mental stress on players, and it's something that people don't quite, I don't think spend enough time looking at, because it's easy to when somebody breaks down physically because you've got you have an injury, but if you're breaking down mentally, it's a lot more difficult to spot and probably a lot harder to rectify.
Most definitely. Well, Peter, you touched on the fact that you became a broker following your days as a rugby player, and it was quite a lengthy career, over 20 years if I'm not mistaken. Was this the career you had planned while you were still a player, and was it an easy transition into business for you?
It was a relatively easy transition. It was quite difficult initially because I didn't have a clue what was going on. But I quite enjoyed it. The job I was doing was working within a sort of very close-knit team of 8 to 10 people, and there was a great camaraderie. Very much akin to a team sport like rugby, where we were reliant on everybody in the team to do their job well. So from that perspective, it was sort of quite easy to sort of fit in. But it was a reasonably pressurised job where you had to perform every day, and otherwise it was all about being successful, and I did a reasonable job, I think.
Well, your days as a broker are behind you, as you are now the founder and director of Full Contact Events Limited. Can you tell us for how long your business has been in operation, and which type of events do you organise? Yeah,
we've been operational for a couple of years now. We look at any type of corporate event. A lot of the stuff we do is through sporting events. We do hospitality. We do various events, cycling events, and anything that can be deemed to sort of engage clients and engage employees. So we have to come up with some good ideas and then follow through with them.
On what scale are these events? Are they for small corporate functions, or are we looking at like large festivals?
Relatively small events at the moment, very sort of bespoke. We look at a client's brief and we work from that. So generally fairly small events, but as I say, they're very, very bespoke. We try to sort of, each event has a good angle which gives value to the clients.
Fantastic. Well, Peter, on your website, www.fullcontactevents.co.uk, you say that sport is personal and that you create and cultivate unique and meaningful experiences for your clients and their customers. Where did this approach to events marketing come from?
Just really with the sort of experience, I think. Having attended a lot of sort of sporting functions and events over the years, a lot of it is, I think that the real value for anybody is in the sort of personal touch, and it's having the right. If we're inviting former players, for example, having the right ones and having building a sort of ambiance and a relationship with the client and the client's clients. But I think it's that personal touch that really is the key.
Well, besides rugby, you have another sporting passion, which is cycling. So much so that you are heavily involved with the Ride of the Lions. What inspired you to get involved with this organisation, which raises funds for numerous charities?
Yeah, it was initially. It was 4 years ago. We decided to set this up and ride from Melbourne to Sydney during the Lions Tour in Australia, and that we raised about £130,000 for Walking with the Wounded. We had an Australian side and a UK side, and when we got home, we decided to carry it on. So we've had various cycle events each year, varying from 100 people doing the Waterloo to London ride in 2015, to riding down to for Gibraltar from London last year. And this year we have an event from in New Zealand during the Lions Tour between the second and third test, where we're cycling from Wellington to Auckland, and supported by a number of former British Lion players, and also a number of former All Blacks.
Well, you just touched on my next question, which is about that cycle between Wellington and Auckland. How many cyclists are taking part in your team, and what have preparations been like?
Well, there's about 50 people on the ride. Half of it will be from New Zealand, half of it will be from the UK. And so, gosh, I'm hoping that the test series is still alive by the time we start cycling, or if we don't do too well, it could be quite a long week with the former All Blacks. And we're cycling it's a total of 5 days. And in between the cycling, we have a charity golf day in Taupo, which should be good. And we're raising money on this side for Walking with the Wounded and Wooden Spoon, and in New Zealand, their side of the ride is raising money for conductive education.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, lastly, Peter, is there the opportunity for businesses to get involved with Ride of the Lions in the future, and in what ways can they offer support? We're always looking for any business who wants to be involved, who would like to be involved, and it's a question of working out how we can help the business. Look, as far as businesses are concerned, they'd be, if we're looking for sponsors, for example, or just supporters of our events. That would be absolutely outstanding. And what a business can bring is through the marketing and through the awareness of the event. We're always looking for more businesses to come forward and sort of look at how they can support any of our cycling events, but also how they can get something out of it. Well, Peter, your charity work and your events company are perhaps equally as impressive as your rugby playing career, and we at the Rugby Business Network wish you all the best for your long distance ride when you get there in New Zealand.
Thanks very much. Cheers.